Alrighty, guys, we're back. We're doing another little review. It's been a minute, but we have just had the Leger World Cup go down this weekend, just gone in Leger, France. Now, before we get into all the results and all the other action I want to talk about, I've got one bone to pick with Pink Bike, in particular, the Fantasy League. Now, I don't know if anyone else has had this issue, but I had picked Amaury Pierron at the last round, and he was in my fantasy league, and he was cheap. He was easy to pick. He was easy to get, and I was like, awesome. Got him going to Leger, got my team all sorted, and then the day, I think, of the race, or maybe the day before, I got an email. I didn't actually check it until after the race, but because he'd won the race, he got more expensive, and then because he had gotten more expensive, they took him out of my team because they couldn't afford him, and they replaced him with his brother who was out with injury. So I checked my fantasy after the race, and I had actually not done as well as I thought I would have because he got booted out and Baptiste got put in, which is kind of random that they just like, oh, well, we can't have this Pierron, you can have another one. But I don't know if I'm into this whole idea that the actual cost of the riders changes depending on what result they got at the last race. Like, the whole point of this is being able to like pick your team based off what they were worth at the start. And that's like how a race team would work. You'd pick your rider from the start of the season. You don't start paying them way more halfway through the season. They start doing well. Obviously, they've got bonuses and stuff. But I just thought that was a bit of a weird one. And I'm getting quite into my fantasy league, seeing as I'm not actually competing anymore. So I thought I need to be finger on the pulse. I got some good picks though. But yeah, if Amaury was in there, it would have just really like topped off a nice little fantasy weekend. But if anyone else is having trouble with their fantasy league or doesn't agree with that, let me know because yeah, I'm getting quite invested in it. But the race went down in Leger, and looking at it as it went into the weekend, I actually made me miss racing downhill. It's a track I used to live in, Morzine and Leger, for the past few years, and Châtel and all that. So I was in that area. So it definitely feels like a home race to me when I was competing there. And to see everyone rocking up and riding Morzine and hanging out, it was like one of the times that I really loved mountain biking, when you've got all your buddies there, when you're riding fun tracks, when you're literally staying at the bottom and you can just ride your bike from your house or your chalet or wherever you are. So seeing everyone there and competing this weekend, it definitely was a little bit of a soft spot in the old heart. But as the weekend progressed and as we saw the weather came in and kind of turned it all on its head, it definitely made me not miss it as much. So it's one of those things when you just enjoy it when everything's going right, but when it turns wrong, you really realize that's not what you want to do. I felt that again. Same thing at Val de Sol, same thing here. Even when they're in Poland and had that wet weather, it's just like this year's been a bit of a mess with the rain coming in and obviously kind of playing havoc. There hasn't really been just a dry race from start to finish. There's always been a bit of weather involved in it, and yeah, I definitely don't miss that. I don't miss being at the start of the hill and actually having no idea what tyres to run, no idea what the track's going to be like, and having to push to your very limit to get down. But some guys managed to do it, and one in particular did it really well. But yeah, it's just that whole build up on a track that you've practiced and has got really good, and then the weather comes in and just kind of turns it all, and then you've got to find your feet again, change your lines. It's very stressful, especially on race day. You only get probably 2-3 runs max. Obviously, your bike's going to be wet and muddy and dirty, so then you've got to play into that. The lift at Leger is very slow, so you're sitting on a slow lift getting soaked, so your body's cold, and all these elements and factors weigh into just like the mental strength to be able to push through all that and then obviously show up and perform. But we'll go through the junior ranks. Heather Wilson in the elite and the junior women, she got another win in the book. She was out the last round with concussion symptoms, so she's come back and absolutely thrown down. She's taken the win and just gotten that confidence back. Alla Sergby got second, and she was only half a second back, so she was quite close as well. She was actually up halfway down at the splits and then lost time at the bottom, but she's obviously one to look out for. She's building as well. There's a lot of fast girls at the moment. There's a lot of fast girls that are like really starting to kind of find their feet and really pushing. Lena Hoshbosh got third in the junior women and she was 2 seconds back. So still like, it's pretty tight racing. It was 5 seconds back to Sasha and Ernest, and she was in 5th place. So between 1st to 5th in the junior women, it was only 5 seconds, which is actually quite tight racing between all of them. So That's super, super cool to see that the girls are kind of competitive and tight racing. And yeah, it's been cool to see the junior categories, both the junior men and women, being super competitive and obviously going super fast as well. In the junior men, Asa Vermette, and by the way, all the junior races got cancelled as well. I'll just let you know that they went off qualifying, so they didn't actually get to do a proper race run in the wet. They went off the qualifying results the day prior. So this has been the second time that the juniors have been cancelled. Last year was at Loudon Vial, and then obviously this year now at Leger. So it's kind of, you feel for them because you're obviously trying, but you've got that little safe brain a little bit when it comes to pushing your hardest, knowing that you've got to back it up again tomorrow. So I think when you know the weather's coming in the way it is, like everyone would have been aware that the weather was going to change and get really bad. So if you have that information and you know that's coming, probably go as hard as you can in quali just in case this could happen again. But yeah, Asa Vermette took the win by 0.075 over Max Alvren. Those two have kind of separated themselves from the rest of the pack. They put 5 seconds, or almost 5 seconds, 4.1 into John Moselle, who has kind of found his feet again and he's building as well. So I think that was his first podium. I think he believe he got 4th at Val de Sol, so he's obviously got that momentum and he's building. But again, yeah, the two out the front, Asa and Max, have definitely set themselves apart and they've been pushing each other. So I think they're both going to be super beneficial for each other. They're going to be like that back and forth of not just getting it done easily and obviously building as the season goes on. It's funny how they probably not dislike each other, but you'd be a bit annoyed that he's just beating me or I've just got this little bit to play with. But in the grand scheme of things, they're going to be the best thing to happen to each other in the long run. So I think that's going to be a really cool rivalry, which is going to obviously build into both of them doing really, really well as they move up into elite. But I think Ace is definitely first year. I think they're both actually first year, so they've got to deal with each other next year as well. And then obviously build into going to the elite category. So super interested to see how that battle plays out and where they go. In the elite women, we actually had a new time winner, Eleonora Farina. She actually came down super early, and I don't think anyone kind of realized how good the run was. She was just smooth, consistent. She had good splits the whole way down, but going off someone that comes down early, it's hard to tell because you obviously haven't seen everyone else come down. But she actually put 6.7 seconds into Millie Jonest. So she put some time into, and then third place was Tani Seagrave, 20 seconds back. Miriam Nicole was 21 seconds back, and Valley Hall was 24. I believe that all of those girls actually crashed as well. I'm not sure about Millie. I think she might have as well. But it's crazy to see that the track was so hard to just get down is all you kind of needed to do. It was one of those things where someone didn't look that quick, unless you're Amaury Pierron, but most people just look smooth and consistent and stayed on their bike. I believe that out of the 30 elite men that came down, 20 of them crashed. So 10 got top to bottom without crashing, or at least wasn't seen on the actual live feed. But even with them, they probably had stalls and moments and unclipping and all these different issues. So it was one of those races that reminds you of back when we raced like Champery or even Cairns, when the weather comes in and the track almost becomes unrideable. And you see it with that like hard, glossy top and then like a little bit of rain on top. It hadn't had enough rain to really bed into ruts. So it was one of those things where it was just like an ice rink, which is actually interesting because Greg Minnaar was the first rider on track and he ended up third. He was 6.7 seconds back, but I think his conditions were actually worse than Amaury's. Amaury came down right towards the end and it had actually rained a lot more. You can see on the GoPro that he put up and Greg put up that the ground is a lot wetter. There's a lot more water running down the track, which actually gives you more grip. If you kind of just ride the river, you can find more grip in spots and you can see how hard he can push into a lot of the corners, where I'm not trying to take anything away from him. Amaury is an absolute beast, but just saying, or just looking what Greg got and then looking at the track conditions that he came down in and then seeing that he wasn't actually that far back considering, it's pretty impressive. Greg's obviously had a bit of a struggle this year, had some injuries, had some crashes on a new team, trying to figure that out. So it's cool to see him being able to come down first as well. and hold that hot seat for a long time. That's definitely going to boost some confidence going into the World Champs at Andorra, which I guess is somewhat his home race. So I think he could pull something out of the bag. He's a bit of a magician when it comes to just laying stuff down when it matters. So pumped to see him back up on the podium. We had Thomas Stack that got on the podium after, I think, 4 or 5 years he's been off. So he got into 5th place, which is cool to see, especially obviously being a French guy, home crowd. Love to see it. Super good guy, super stylish, just a really good rider, and just a really good dude. So it's cool to see him lay one down. Again, another homie, Remy Thirion. He was in 4th, which is awesome to see. He's, again, there's just too many good dudes, especially good French dudes. I think they got this stigma around them that they, like, the French are really shitty, like, people or riders, or came across real snobby, but there's definitely been a turn. I think Luke Bruni probably had a lot to do with this, where the perception of French athletes or downhill racers definitely shifted, and now everyone loves them because they're absolutely awesome. But then we had Greg in 3rd. Andreas Kolb has finally got his shit together and laid it down into 2nd. He's been a bit of a slow burn this year to get going after the year he had last year. So it's cool to see him lay one down in 2nd place. He was 6.4 seconds back, though. On the man, the legend, Amaury Pierron is back, and he's back in a big way. He just won Val de Sol, which was arguably one of the hardest tracks to race in the wet and the roots and the rocks and everything. He won that by like almost 5 seconds, and now he's coming one up that, and he's put 6.4 seconds into Andreas Kolb, and he's won again. And I can't stress this enough. Like, this guy has literally come off a year of missing every single race. He broke his neck. He has been rehabbing, recovering, getting better. And I can speak from experience that I have gone through a similar thing to what he has gone through. And I'm going to straight up say, I still haven't jumped on a bike. I haven't even ridden a bike. And I know if I wanted to, I could. But there's still like a little bit of fear around hopping on, and riding would be fine, but pushing myself and like going back in that situation that obviously hurt me so bad, and riding at these speeds and these levels, like, there has got to be some mental toughness that is just built into you to push that hard and go that fast after having a broken neck, missing a whole year, and coming back and just going, all right, we're just going to go straight back where we came from. Not just winning, but winning by massive margins on tracks that over half the field has just crashed on. Like, you would be getting information from your team that everyone is crashing. Everyone. And then you go and throw down a run that looks like you just, hell for leather, I'm going to win this race. And that's kind of what he has to do, though, because he is fighting back in the points. He didn't start off the year as well as his biggest rival, which is Luke Bruni, who is leading at the moment. And in Luke's run, he looked like he was very conservative. He looked like he just wanted to survive and get some points. But you can't do that. Like, you can't. It might pan out, but when you've got people like Amaury that are just going to throw everything at it and get the win and get the points, it's like you need to kind of push that edge, because he will hunt you down and he will steal this thing back from you if the conditions play out and we keep getting these races where they're not 100% perfect. Like, Amaury, even if they are, Amaury will still throw down, and he's closed the gap. He's actually now sitting second place in the overall. So we'll go through the women's overall first before we go through the men's, but Valley Hall's still got the lead. Tani Seagrave, she actually crashed in her race run as well. She was up by 5 seconds, so she's building a lot of confidence, and she's definitely someone that can battle for those wins now. We got Marine Cabarrou in 3rd. Miriam Nicole is in 4th, and Nina Hoffman is in 5th. So that's your top 5 for your women. And for the men, we have got first place Loic Baruni with 1,403 points. In second place is Amaury Pierron with 1,187. So he's just closing that gap down each race. And it is going to be super interesting to see now that he has that confidence, he has that momentum. And when he does have that, he's a hard man to beat. When he is on, there's certain riders, when they are on, and they are riding the best that they can ride, I believe they're pretty much unstoppable. There was the point where obviously it was Sam, and then it was Gwyn, and then even Ratboy for a little bit there, and now Amaury. And it's like you have those guys that are on, and I just don't think that, like, I always say this, but I think Luke is a better racer, but Amaury is a faster rider. Now think about that for a second. Because Luke has won more world championships, more overalls, but for all-out speed and for just going hell for leather, you can't look past Amaury. Amaury is a quicker bike rider, but he struggles, I think, with consistency at times, with obviously injuries and a few other things that come in and riddle him, and making the odd mistake here from pushing that hard, where Luke can be a bit more down the line. But for all-out speed, the guy can't really be matched, which is cool to see. It's cool to see it when you're not racing against him and he's not knocking you off every weekend, but absolute animal. Troy Brosnan is in third place. Finn Isles is in fourth. I know he obviously crashed, but I thought Finn was on for one this weekend. I think if he did stay on, he obviously would have been on the podium. If the weather didn't come in, I think he was definitely one for possibly a win or being right there. Dakota Norton is in fifth place still. He's getting the qualifiers are really adding up, the first place qualifiers. He's obviously not laying it down in the finals, but he's definitely someone that's going to build and get a World Cup win soon. He's got the speed, he's got the consistency. He just needs to kind of hold it together in a race run and not getting so so beat up with the weather. Ronan Dunn is in sixth. Lucas Shaw in seventh, Andreas Kolb in eighth, Loris Vergier ninth, and Benoit Cool-Ange is in 10th. So that's your top 10 for the elite men. But yeah, it was an interesting race to kind of work out how much, I guess, information was being fed back to the guys at the top, because from watching the race, there was certain lines, especially at the bottom, where a lot of people were crashing, and I looked at it and some people did certain lines, and I'm like, if you were a team manager at the bottom of the track and you were seeing every single person crash in one section, and you had seen Greg Minnaar come down and do a different line, wouldn't you be trying to relay that information back to the top? Because I'm pretty sure the top three, and I'm talking about there's a shoot into a right-hander where everyone was trying to get up high and wide. Pretty much everyone crashed, besides a few. The top three, I'm pretty sure I know Greg and definitely Amaury went inside and just cut it real tight. Why wouldn't you be putting that information back? I saw that. I saw a few people try to go real tight and just, like Ethan Craig just cannonballed it himself and slid down. Remy Pierron managed to do it, but that guy he sold his soul for grip. But yeah, it's interesting to see the tactics behind what people were feeding information back, and also with tires and everything like that. Like Greg said in an interview that he was at the top, and about 15 minutes before his run, that's when he decided what tires to use. So it's like you're leaving it down to the wire when it's so hit and miss like that. So yeah, very interesting. But we'll wrap it up now. Guys, let me know about your fantasy picks and what you think about that, because that has stirred me up, because I had a winner. I had a winner locked in and they took him away from me. Also, what you were excited to see at the race, and also predictions for what's going to happen at the World Champs. I'm super interested to see what you guys think. There's obviously a bit of a break now, but going into that, where you think people are going to stack up. In particular, Greg. How do you think Greg's going to go there? Because I think off this and going to his home race, and I know he'll get his fans and family and stuff there, and he's one of those people, you put more pressure on him, you get more eyes there, you get his family there, you get everyone around him, and he seems to perform. So interesting to see what you guys think. But yeah, let me know. Love chatting with you guys in the comments and seeing what you have to think. So thank you. Bye now.